certainly about the recruiting part of it. How do you get recruited? But the main thing is from a young age and from the beginning, as soon as you realize you want to play, it's about being good enough, and how do you develop skill? And I think that's the most important thing is no matter how big you are, whether you're projected as a center or a guard, skill level is the most important thing coaches look for. So developing that skill, having coaches, the right coaches to teach you from a young age. And then once you get older, finding the right places to compete, where you'll get seen. But I think overall what gets lost is most kids concentrate on how to get recruited as opposed to how to improve as a player. The most important thing is become the best player you can be. And in basketball, it's all about skill.
What's the best way for a high school player to get on a college coach's radar?
Yeah, and once we kind of get into that territory of being recruited, I think it's about the connections you can make with your own coaches. And once you have those, and then you have your coaches working on your behalf of reaching out to their connections within college, and then obviously AAU basketball is huge now. So being on a summer basketball circuit where you're traveling and playing in different tournaments. But again, it always comes back to you can have a coach know a college coach and have him come see one of your games to come look at you, but you got to be good enough. That's the most important thing. So develop as a player, and then hopefully you have good coaches that you trust that can help you make connections.
How can a recruit best prepare to play at the next level?
Yeah, I think we have kids that come in obviously as incoming freshmen that come into summer school and play for us before the season starts, and so many of them are concerned about should I be lifting? Should I am I going to be strong enough, big enough? Every coach is different. I don't think the physical aspect is as big of a deal as, again, to come back to fundamentals. And I think every college coach is looking for a player that understands the game and has a fundamental base. And I think those are the things that allow you to play a lot right away and to help your coach. And that's secondary. The main thing is having, the talent level, but playing hard. Being a guy that plays really hard, no matter what sport you play, is going to get you noticed, and it's going to get your coach confidence in you.
What type of tournaments or showcases would you suggest that a recruit attend?
Yeah, I think obviously as we've seen in the news lately, a lot of the sneaker companies are involved in AAU basketball at the grassroots level. So a lot of these, AAU teams that are on the sneaker circuits, quote unquote, Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. I mean, those are the teams that run the highest quality events and will be in front of a lot of coaches regularly. But I think an organization that does a tremendous job of running camps, tournaments, and teams, maybe on a little bit of a lower perceived level, but all of us college coaches look at would be the Hoop Group. They do a great job of just getting kids in a really competitive environment in front of college coaches.
What type of attributes do you look for in athletes that you're recruiting?
Every coach is different. We have somewhat of a system that we try and recruit to in terms of basketball. I think we want to try and find as skilled a player as possible, while also having great physical length to be able to cover ground and play the game. So that combination and mobility, those things are really important to us. We don't necessarily care so much about raw size as we do being able to move, how you can move and how you can function. And then the other component is character. Kids that want to do the right thing. Not perfect. They're going to make mistakes, but want to do the right things on and off the court. And that's a judgment call. And I think a big part of evaluating kids now is getting to know them as people before you engage in that. All right, you're coming to our school.
At what stage in their basketball career should a high school player start thinking about playing in college?
I think it's okay to start thinking about playing in college early. 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. That's early to me. But I don't think you need to get overly engaged or worried with the process. There's a lot of really good players that play in college right now that weren't recruited until their late junior, early senior year in high school. I mean, that happens. So I think it can cause a lot of stress for kids who want to play in college when they think, I'm not being recruited yet. And it stops them from getting better. They stop they start worrying so much about the recruiting, and they stop working on their game as much. So I would say you start thinking about it freshman year of high school, sophomore year of high school. You're thinking logistically, all right, how can I get on some people's radars? And then junior and senior year is when recruiting should really happen.
How important are the social media profiles of recruits?
Really important, really important. And I think it's not necessarily important for a recruit to have a social media platform so that they can be recruited. That's not important. It's important that if they do, they're using it in the right way, because it gives us a window into their personality, into their character. And if they handle it really well and they're really positive and thoughtful on social media, as a coach, I look at it like, wow, look at this guy. This is somebody I want to be a part of what we do. But the reverse is certainly true. A kid can be really impressive on the phone, like him when you watch him play, but then I see his social media, and it's a little shaky. It causes some second thoughts.
What sets apart a Division I program from Division II or III?
I think, at its root, probably funding, the overall profile of what, obviously, level of competition leagues you're playing in, the postseason that you have the opportunity to play in, and just visibility. I think the best players want to play on the biggest stages and in the highest level of competitive environments, and that's really what it is. But there are some really good coaches, players, and teams at the Division II and III level. So it's not to say that good players don't go to those levels. It's just that I think the best players want to try and find the best fit for themselves at the higher levels.
What's the biggest recruiting horror story that you've witnessed as a coach?
For me, I've never been a part of a true horror story. I mean, nothing outrageous. But one of the hardest things to do, before this job, I was an assistant coach. For your coach is manage expectations. I think that's one of the most important things you do as a recruiter. And at Villanova, we had a kid come on an official visit in the spring and commit, say he's coming to Villanova, and told coach and said, I don't want to make it public until after the weekend. I want to sit down with my family and tell him. And we were all excited. And then on Monday, we found out he was committing to another school. So those ups and downs, ebbs and flows of emotion in terms of recruiting can be pretty crazy.
If you think of the best players you've ever coached, what did they all have in common?
It's a great question. I think it's actually a really interesting question for different coaches. I'd be interested to see what different coaches say. For me, I think the best players that I've been associated with, obviously have talent and they have skill level, but they know how to manage that thin line between like a violent competitiveness, but then also like a composed intelligence as well. And it's really hard because you get a lot of guys that can compete, they can go hard, and they can really get after it, and you love them for that. And then you have a lot of guys who are really smart and composed, but you have a guy that can do both, that can kind of walk that line. And I think a lot of the times that comes with experience. But if you have a really good player that can be your hardest playing guy, but also be the guy that can look at everybody in a huddle, settle everybody down and say, hey, this is exactly what we have to do. Those are qualities of the best players I've been around.
What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you on the court or when you're coaching?
Oh, gosh. I guess a couple years back, this probably happens to every coach, but just when it happens, it's crazy. When you put a kid in the game and he takes off his warm-up so he doesn't have his jersey on, Or like, I had a teammate in college do that, and we still had the tearaway pants, and he just had like the tights. I forgot to put his game shorts on. Just like, how do you not have your uniform on ready to play, And then sprinting back into the locker room instead of going to the scorer's table. So those are always funny. We try to make it to where like we're really serious about what we do. So even if when things are funny on the court, we try and just keep a straight face and talk about it after the game. But nothing too crazy. But those are the ones that you remember.